Dup, dup, dup. All right, everybody. Welcome in, everybody. We're just getting our pipes warmed up for this evening with some vocal renditions by the great band Hanson.
Shout out to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, dude. Did you actually had that album when it first came out way back in the day? No lie.
Oh, classic. Not to age yourself.
Yeah, not to date myself too bad, but hey, we're here in a great time it is for us because yesterday we had one show planned, had a whole lineup of topics, and then the Titans hired an OC and changed everything. So
everything, bro.
We did hang on to one topic, and which under Chase you can see on our graphic if you're watching with us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Twitch. Should the Titans trade up, stay at 11, or trade back? So we'll discuss some of those things tonight. But hey, appreciate you jumping in, and folks, thank you for joining, and check us out always on social media tonight in case if you're chatting with us. I know Twitter has its issues, so jump on the YouTube, make sure and subscribe. But welcome to Chat 10 Sports, everybody. What's up, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Chat 10 Sports, where we're talking all things Tennessee sports and everything in between. If you're watching us from Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, we do invite you to chat with us live, so make sure and keep that thing live. And if you're listening to us, be sure to follow, subscribe, rate the show, and if you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell for notifications. But folks, with that said, without further ado, let's jump into a brand new episode of Chat 10 Sports. Yes. My goodness. I think something just jumped in my eyeball. Hold on one second.
Jumped up and got him.
Just jumped up and bit me. Sorry about that. Yeah, sharing on social media here. Make sure if you're watching on Facebook, like the show wherever you are, retweet, and obviously on Twitter, or excuse me, on YouTube, if you'll thumbs up the show, and then obviously chat along with us. We appreciate it. I know some people are running in here tonight as well. But Chase, how have you been, my friend? Obviously, we'll talk some NFL and the general at probably the end, but the Titans have been busy. What are your thoughts in general of the state of the Titans today?
It felt a little weird because it felt very prototypical Tennessee fan. And I'm really trying to be optimistic. I think most of us are. Buck Rising pulled out a really good one. He's like, most of you guys called out for Tim Kelly during the middle of the season. Now you don't want him. And it felt like that, but also to stick up for Titans fans that were in that state. The scenario was so bad with Todd Downing that you needed anything else. You just needed to change the scenery. And that's the only option you felt like you had in the building, because you felt like you had an okay option that was different. But then when you get to the end of the season is when you get to create new options. You got a new GM. You've got a young guy that wants to do some good. You want to try some new things. You feel like you can sell this franchise, the city, and you're like, maybe we can get some young mind in here that would be new, fresh, and not another in-house hire. And doesn't it feel like the in-house hire is getting a little old? But all in all, I don't hate it. It just felt like we settled. But I also felt like the same thing when the Vols hired Josh Heupel. So who knows?
The whole who knows thing is where I get caught up, where it's like we really obviously at this point don't know what Rand Carthon is. We don't know what the offense is going to look like. But I think what I'm guilty of with the announcement, the shell shock of it, it seemed like the stars aligned for everything to change. From OC change, let's move up and get one of these young quarterbacks. Let's change the overhaul the whole offensive scheme. Like, now's the time. And I think it just shows that they're so aware that this time is so sensitive for the Titans organization, because you've had so much change. Rand Carthon, like, we have been elated to have him. It's great. All the above. Right now, he's checking every box. He actually just hired, I'll pull it up on Twitter here, hired a assistant GM out of Green Bay, Chad Brinker.
Great hire, by the way.
Yeah, and I know Paul Kaharski put up today on the Twitter, if I can get it pulled up here quick enough, just talking about how I think he'll be over more of the analytical side, if I can speak off the dome.
That's true, and he'll bring that's a part of the Titans that clearly has not been a facet of their want to or
Right.
needs, it
Right.
felt like, for Vrabel.
Yeah, and it also feels like after yesterday's presser with Vrabel, there was talk of or implication of change, of like updating and seeing how we adjust things. But as you can see in our graphic here, I mean, Tim Kelly's the guy, and like you're
Mhm.
saying, it was almost that confusion of like, well, if we went with him and we were waiting on Bieniemy or Nagy or whomever it was going to be, why didn't we just go with him after the DUI? Why? Because you had the out, you had like the PR look of like, hey, we don't tolerate that stuff, yada yada yada. We stand in Tennessee for all that stuff, and we could PR would love it. It'd be great.
Yeah.
But it also gave Tim Kelly. It would have given Tim Kelly that time to say, look, dude, you've been in these meetings, you've had these conversations. Here's the keys, because what we do know now. Paul Kaharski asked Mike Vrabel, so what was Tim Kelly doing yet last year? He's like, well, I had basically had him helping with tight ends, and then he was also helping kind of, or I think he was assisting with tight ends or whatever what the term was. But
Yeah.
it seemed like that group got better throughout the year, and it's also just strange that, I mean, pulling him from Houston wasn't a huge shock. I think if we look back, I mean, yeah, he had some impact, but Bill O'Brien was doing a lot of the play calling in 19 and 20 for the Texans. So we really don't have anybody or anything to point to. I mean, I've honestly had a hard time right here for this graphic or whatever it is. I had a hard time finding a good photo of him in a Titans outfit and not
Yeah.
a Texans thing. It's like he has been in the background. He's been pulling the strings. Craig coming
Yeah.
off the top already.
Bill O'Brien is a hack.
Going back to the Patriots. But yeah, that's where I kind of stand, where straight up, like, yeah, it felt like I don't have a sister, but if I had to kiss her, I would imagine this is what it feels like, of just like, oh man, like, did we really gain anything? But I think also it was the confusion of the like musical chairs mix up of the existing. I think who was it? The wide receivers coach was the only guy who had his same job.
Yeah.
So, and now Tony Dews is tight ends and all these different mix-ups. It's like, okay, like, are we trying to? Is this a Rand Carthon where he comes in and it's like, hey, I think he might be better suited here, or try this there? And I know he also talked about Vrabel talked about kind of having a well-rounded staff. Because here's one thing, just to end my long-winded rant about this: if Vrabel's trying to have everybody well-rounded enough to be ready to be pulled from, to be the OC whenever the OC gets, pulled, or when Shane Bowen finally gets a head coaching job, that he gets, his replacement is just waiting in the wings right there. So who knows what reason? It does make me put on that tinfoil cap of like, what are you thinking, Vrabel? Because even now, like, that's the reason I didn't change the topic as far as moving up or down or staying in the draft, is I still feel like we do think it's going to be Tannehill and more of Henry and adjustments and play calling and scheme. But they could also just equally just like shock us and say, hey, the Bears are trading the number one pick to the Tennessee Titans for X compensation. But of all that I just said, I mean, do you think it's going to be more of the same? Do you think it's going to be, we'll see where it goes? I mean, what are you expecting from the Titans? Because I saw a lot of stuff on social media saying, hey, this is not what I wanted to see.
It will be different. And here's why. Like, so Vrabel pointed out in the presser that what Tim Kelly was involved in was first and second down passing and red zone offense. Titans didn't make it to the red zone a lot. They were 31st. We were
Right.
last place.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get there. It was a bad offense. But what Tim Kelly was involved in was pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Titans were sixth. We're going to have to go efficiency here because they obviously didn't get there that often.
Yeah.
But when they got to the red zone, they were sixth overall in efficiency and scoring touchdowns. So it's pretty awesome. I mean, considering first and second down passing, a part that Todd took away a lot because God help his soul, he's going to run on first down. When they did pass, now that could be a surprise effect because they never did it. So you could attribute part of that to that.
Mm-hmm.
But when they did pass, they were at least upper middle class. We'll say that. That's pretty good. I mean, they were probably, I think they were 13th, 12th or 13th. So there are some efficiencies when it comes to a lackluster wide receiving crew. And, what you had at quarterback, ins and outs, Malik and Dobbs and Tannehill. It's just like there's a lot of things that you can say. There were some brighter spots in all this, what Tim Kelly was involved in, so that at least gives you some confidence going in. It will be different. Todd did a lot of things that were very frustrating, clearly. I just thought we'd go different. I thought we'd really go heavy with somebody new for the offensive line. Keep it in-house again with hoteling. It's just like, God, man. Hopefully he's the right guy. Hopefully he is. But it's just like, man, I thought that's something we would really try to bolster. Like try to find
the guy.
I know it's hard to say like a home run hire as a O-line coach, but I was just hoping we'd find that one guy because I think this team's really going to need that. I like Charles London coming in from the Falcons. There's a lot of good things I liked. Supposedly Lori Locust is kind of a stud, so I'm pretty pumped about her coming in. That'll be great. I mean, like it's not just because of the, her being a woman part. It's like if she's a woman in this world and Vrabel picked her and Rand picked her, like she's got to be kind of an alpha dog, and it's just like a character thing. So that's a hopeful. She's got to know what she's doing type deal, and there's a couple others
but to impress Mike Vrabel, that says a lot. Where I mean, obviously, Coach of the Year. It's one of those things that we're now looking at this team like, well, if Vrabel's been able to do what he's been able to do with the talent that J-Rob has supplied, and I mean, Nick Lombardi and I were tweeting back and forth yesterday about how John Robinson basically whiffed more in free agency than he did in the draft, which
is crazy,
which is nuts, right? I mean, that's where it's like, God, he just burned up so much cash, and it's like now, if they do cut the assumed fat that we expect of Lawan, Cunningham, and the guys that we've already talked about, I mean, I feel confident, and I really do. Here's the thing. People are saying, oh, even at best, that of all the things that we know right now, which is like literally nothing, everyone's saying, well, maybe at best it's Arthur Smith, and we get back to those days, right, where they had some good offensive efficiencies. They were scoring over 30 points a game. But the thing is, even last year or the year before last now against the Bengals in the divisional round, we had 9 sacks. They still barely got by it. It was a last-minute thing. It wasn't like they were getting their asses kicked for the whole game, because at the end of the day, I just think the margin gets so slim down there that if you're going to commit to this offense, this zone run scheme, all the above, I mean, great, because there's always the asterisks now, like the unknowns of, well, is Rand Carthon going to bring in good talent via the draft and via free agency? And is Tim Kelly going to call good plays? Because those are the two biggest things that we've been dealing with the last 2 or 3 years now. Injury. Like, get the right guys. Not everyone's going to stay healthy. It's football. We get it. But all that to say, as far as like staffing, like we really, I mean, it dropped like an A-bomb. Like we just had no idea. I wasn't expecting it until at least a week from yesterday, given the Super Bowl ending and having maybe a second follow-up interview of Nagy or Bieniemy. But I mean, do you feel more or less, I guess, intrigued or not by the Titans? I mean, did it move the needle for you, or are you just kind of like, yeah, we'll see?
Anything was better than Todd, but there is a part of me I believe in Vrabel. I think Vrabel is one of the best coaches in the NFL, and I've mentioned that over and over. But I've also talked about, he's the most stubborn guy in the NFL too, feels like. And I could piggyback, especially off like the LeBron aspect, like of last night of him getting the scoring record.
Yeah.
Vrabes is such a good coach that you're like, if I have Vrabel, if you're Vrabel, you're thinking I could have anybody and get us, 500. It feels like.
Well, this was
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I could have a terrible roster over and over again, the most hurt teams, and you, especially from last year, it's like, dude, he can carry teams to a decent record, but that might actually be like more hurtful in the long run because he's not willing to maybe find new great talent for an OC because I don't know. This is pure speculation. I don't know. Like, is he afraid of losing guys year in, year out? Because if he gets a really good OC, you got to go find a new one, or do you just want to keep this guy like because he's not going to be a head coach anytime soon? You feel like he's pretty good. You trust yourself so much because of your system. It's almost a detriment in a way because you're so confident as a coach, but you can be really good at your ceiling, but can you be great at your ceiling with not hiring great OCs or getting a great DC? Like, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, there's just so many little things about him that I love and that also just might be frustrating in the long run too. But I still have faith. I still have faith because I want Tim to be pretty good. And as Craig just said, a concrete block was better than Todd Downing. So I get that. I get that 100%. But Braves' talent might also be like a weird small detriment in some cases. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But there's some parts of this that the roster's got to get better. The roster's got to get better. Do you feel like Rand is gonna make that new walk-in GM move of like he's gonna kind of show off? Do you think it's gonna be the draft pick? Do you think it's gonna be a trade for T. Higgins? How do you see that going? Do you feel like it's just gonna be smart all the way around?
Well, I feel like it'll be that quiet, calculated, just like meekness, just like doesn't say a whole lot. I'm sure, like we've all talked about him, the rumors of the Bears and them talking about the first overall pick. It's like you need to be doing that. That's a great that's a great thing to do as a GM. Just check on what the price is and kick the tires kind of thing, as others have said about it. But I mean, I don't anticipate this big shocking thing.
You don't.
However, there are some, and I mean big shocking thing like this jump to number one if they were to move. But free agency wise, like we have no idea what to anticipate from the guy. I mean, it seems like it's been, not to hit the same bell over and over again, but the hiring of this GM, the assistant GM, Brinker or whatnot, coming in from Green Bay, like that tells me he's trying to get it together prior to the free agency and draft and all that kind of stuff and go in ready. Because some people were saying they weren't anticipating that pick until after the draft, potentially, for him to start forming his staff. But I'm like, it seems like he's trying to do work, but making every decision count and get you more, bang for your buck versus just, water on the floor for the splash. If that's a proper example or whatnot.
Yeah. And I think Brinker's a guy too, when you look at it, coming from a very small and tough market to do free agency with, where you have to be great at the draft, where you have to be very strategic on getting guys, negotiation, all these things that add up coming out of Green Bay and clearly what they've done. I know this wasn't their best year, but damn, dude, like think about the talent that he gets. They had up there year in, year out. Brinker's a guy that people wanted a lot just from hearing a lot of these little things the last couple of days, the last day or so. He was very, very highly recruited as far as for other jobs as well. People wanted them to be, they wanted him to be his right-hand man as well. So it's one of those deals that somebody like that coming from a small market, understanding, I know Nashville's getting some clout, but you still have to understand where the situation is. If you are somebody wanting to come to this team, it's not an easy sell like it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Because it's not the up and up. Because then you're looking at, well, am I gonna, like, if I get if I'm going here now, like, yeah, the money part's great. Like this, state income tax, things like that. And the city's awesome, but I'm trying to play football. I'm trying to play long term. I want to win. So are you looking at, is Derek going to be here? I mean, this is things that free agency is going to be thinking about when you're coming here as a free agent. You're looking at, is Derek going to be here long term? What's the situation with Jeff Simmons? What's this and that? So it's like you're starting to look at things from a perspective of a guy that's had to recruit in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And it's cold as shit up there, man.
And yeah, I mean, I think Nashville does sell itself for the sake of just like you mentioned, the income tax thing. I think money talks. So if they're able to clear up some cash for this year, maybe backload some of these free agency deals, because 2024 and beyond, their salary cap's pretty great.
It is great.
So that'll talk, but it's also like the I think Vrabel is how the Cadillac has that hood gem where a lot of people would rip him off way back in the day. He is that shining little, like, okay, he's the dude. And I think now do you think Derrick Henry's the face of the franchise, or is Mike Vrabel the face of the franchise?
56-44 in favor of Derrick.
Right. Just because I think depending on who you talk about or who you hear from, who is being talked to, you remember last season, like, hey, Aaron Rodgers is saying, hey, this is Mike Vrabel's team. He'll get it right. And we were 7-3 at that time, and all the shit happened and fell out. But it's Mike Vrabel's team still. Yeah. But it's one of those things that, I think, and this is maybe a controversial topic to bring up with Derrick Henry, but I think
you've been stoking some fires, brother. You have been stoking some fires on the Twitter.
It's not like an intentional stoking. I just this is how I honestly feel. And I know the comments could come in, and I hope all those people on Twitter watching can come over to YouTube so I can actually see your comments, or go on Facebook and we can talk about it. I don't have any vitriol towards Derrick Henry. I don't ever think that I think I was one of the few people that was hesitant to talk about not extending him at an outrageous number, which he did end up getting a friendly deal. And even now, it's like, look, I thought, and I think a part of the conversation we're having about coaching staff and that surprise is I thought they really had the window and opportunity right now to adjust and to evolve. Because here's the thing, dude, like we're all saying, we know the big bad giant on the hill right now is Mahomes, and then there's Allen, there's Burrow up there. They're all guarding the top of the hill. Like, your ass is going to come up here through us.
Yeah.
And Derrick Henry, I mean, guys, real talk. He has not come back from the Jones fracture. Yes, he gets yak yards. I get it. His offensive line was bad. And I'm saying all those things as a credit to him because he still has trade value. But here's the thing. The moves yesterday tell me they're going to hitch the wagon one more year. Bring in some talent, bring in some familiarity with Tim Kelly, who knows how Todd, and even going back years with Vrabel and all those kind of things. It makes sense. But if the deal is there, and I don't think he's going to give you more, Derrick Henry won't give you more than a 4th, maybe 5th round pick. But the guy that could bring you higher draft capital is Ryan Tannehill. And if anyone says otherwise, you've been sipping back on Grandpa's old cough medicine there, have you?
Maybe a little bit. But even to the point of going back to Kelly at least got a Davis Mills to a pretty damn good season. So if we get a fully healthy Tanny, what I expect out of Rand, and this I don't have. Dadgummit.
Vols just fell to Vandy after they just drained a 3.
God damn it.
Were they ranked? You're good.
Yeah. No, appreciate you, Craig, for telling us that. Anyways, we'll go back. Sorry for the use of the GD.
You're all good.
I know, but this is to the people. It's my mom might listen to this. Sorry, Mom. But yeah, so or Aunt Sissy. Yeah, sorry to both of you guys, like both my moms. Anyways, yeah, so with Tim, if he has a healthy, God, I lost my train of thought.
No, we're talking about if he has a healthy team. I mean, if he has
a healthy team, if he has a healthy team, I really look at Rand to hire or to find, as you mentioned, the Meek picks. Like, I don't know if we're going to go out and get Trent Williams, but I do expect him to find really good offensive linemen that may be depth pickups this year. Maybe you get a good, solid starting offensive lineman. I don't know what that'll be. I don't know who that is, but I
I'll
do
tell you.
expect him. He's the kind of guy that's going to find those cats.
I'll tell you a guy
Who's that?
that we've talked about who Rand Carthon probably knows pretty well, and it's Mike McGlinchey. Former Notre Dame offensive tackle, played left tackle in college, moved to right with San Francisco when Trent Williams came for obvious reasons.
Oh, yes.
Slid over. So he's got the experience to be able to do that. Now and here's the thing. Just like we're talking about Todd Downing, anything's better than Todd. At this point, anything is better than Dennis Daly because that's all they could find last year. And right now, they don't have the money to go out and sign Orlando Brown for over $20 million per year. I don't know what Mike McGlinchey would need or want to be a left tackle, because I think right now his market value is slated, 7, 8, 9, maybe $10 million at most. But if he was brought in to play left tackle, that would go up probably $4 or $5 million, I would imagine, with a bunch of incentives laced in. But that's just one guy I bring up because they could attack this thing several ways. And the draft class, the free agency class is deep with guards and interior offensive linemen. There's a lot of pieces to be played with. So I'm intrigued, and I know we'll talk about it in the coming weeks because we're in that barren desert wasteland coming up. So we might have to be pulling on some. This is The Last of Us, and maybe hit some 30 for 30s. But yeah, man, I think it doesn't feel like the step forward that we wanted as far as this big sexy Eric Bieniemy's coming. I don't know that I would have been super excited for Bieniemy, just because he hasn't been calling plays. He's probably heard and listened to Andy Reid call plays for years. But to put a bow on the first topic that we've got here, any topics that let me say this too about Charles London, him coming in as quarterback and passing game coordinator. Wonderful. And I think it's wonderful. We got to talk about Malik. It's great for his attempted and resurrection and development. But if they do draft someone this year or next year, whether it's this class or our Drake May prayers and not pipe dreams, but hopefully they're there, or hopefully they're able to get there. But all that to say,
there's going to be a lot to be said after next year, because you're looking at Caleb Williams, Drake May. And there's some other guys out there that what's the guy's name? It went from NC State to, there's a couple other guys out there that can really play. Leary, that's what I was thinking of. Leary went from NC State to Kentucky. He's a guy that can make a jump. Leary had a tough year last year, got injured, but he was also not playing that well to begin with anyways. But 2 years ago, he was the projected number 1 overall pick, or number 2 behind maybe Bryce. There's a lot of hope in some of those picks for a quarterback class that could be very good, good. So Craig made a really good point in our group text message this week. Do you feel like the most worrisome part, and this can be a transition to trading up, the most worrisome part for Tennessee is to see the Texans and the Colts get their guy before the Titans do at quarterback. And I think that's and he mentioned that's probably why they looked and started like, hey, what's it going to take, Chicago?
Just to foil some plans.
Some plans, and also like try to get a jump on that, because you're like, I can't let the Texans and the Colts get their guy unless one of those guys Will Levis. They can have him.
Yeah, well, let's talk about some prospects, because obviously the guys in our graphics here, CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, are 1A and 1B. Would you say that? Are they one? Is Bryce the 1 overall for you?
Man,
because we talk and we got to talk about this. Size matters here, in my opinion.
Size matters, and he is not one of those guys that looks small and everybody's like in person, it's like, he's pretty good size. No, he's slight, my
Yes,
friends.
yes.
He is very slight. You can hear that. I mean, anybody that's gone to games to scout, I mean, I listen to too many podcasts. I read too many articles, and they all say that Bryce is very, very slight. But his talent is wow. He is impressive. Where CJ has some low end games, and watching Bryce, like the composure that he has every single play to be as good as he was with a pretty mild wide receiver crew. I mean, especially for Bama, but just in general, like they were not that great this year.
Mm-hmm.
He's impressive, man. He's so smart. He is a guy that avoids big hits, but everybody says that, and then you get in the NFL because Tua was the guy that avoided some big hits. And it's like, man, when you get in the NFL, it just takes one or two at that size, and you are out.
Yeah, and that's the concern for me with the 1A 1B talk of these two guys. I think these guys are obviously the top. I've seen a bunch of people having Will Levis or the Colts moving up to number one to take Will Levis, and I'm like, that's a Jim Irsay, give me the phone. We're doing this thing. We're gonna get Will Levis. It's like, what are we talking about? But
I hope they do. I hope they
just go batshit crazy on
just
Drew.
go, dude. He is a nut job, anyways.
Yeah. He is. I mean, straight up. And even his tweet the other day about being open minded and, there's some days or not hours. That I'm like, what type of psilocybin? what type
Yeah,
what type of fungus are you on? Since we're talking about this, The Last of Us. But
dude, he
good,
is on some good stuff, dog.
he is out there. But I mean, to sit here and still see them talking about Jeff Saturday in the running here, I really cannot take them seriously, even with. I mean, if they went with Levis, if they stood, I think they're what are they, 6th or 7th or something right now in that
I think
area.
sixth, yeah.
But if they got a guy like Anthony Richardson, I want to talk about him because he's a dude that size-wise, arm-wise, the dude's got a cannon. He can put it anywhere he wants to put it. He's got the ability to use his feet. I feel like he's got really good pocket presence and awareness to be able to move, keep his eyes downfield, point guys, and just like CJ Stroud is. I mean, I think CJ's my dude. If we're going up and if the Titans love a guy, I hope it's CJ Stroud.
I
And I
would
think,
probably lean CJ. Yeah,
but here's the reason why is that Georgia game.
yeah, it's exactly why. Yeah,
And maybe it's that Vince Young win over USC in 06 or whatever it was, January of 07. But Vince Young had a lot of hype coming out because of that game. And it was recency bias and it was all fresh on the mind of like, man, going 3rd overall and him and Leinart and Cutler will always have that, connection being in the same class. But I mean, at this point, again, I'm very content with keeping Tannehill. And I'll say this in his defense and give me your thoughts. Are there any other prospects as far as free agent quarterbacks that you'd rather the Titans have than Ryan Tannehill?
no, like I don't think anybody moves the needle. Like, don't give me, and if you're a fan out there, like, don't give me a name just because Derek Carr sounds cooler.
Right.
Like, don't give me because he did well in a quarterback competition in the Pro Bowl. I think Derek Carr is really good, but I also think he's in the same tax bracket as Ryan Tannehill. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is in the same tax bracket as Ryan Tannehill. I think the best quarterback out there is Rodgers. I think Rodgers is better. I think he's a notch above, but he's not going to do like you're going to be in the same kind of spot. Like, yes, right, he might be better, but it's not going to get you much further. Like Tannehill's the right guy if you're going to keep a quarterback, if you're going to do the free agency right, if you're not going to move up and get a draft pick. Tannehill's the right guy for now, but this is also coming from unless I'm missing a trade somewhere, unless there's just a disgruntled, quarterback that we don't know about. Like, yeah, it's one of those NBA free agency type things. Like, you just never know, but I don't see it happening. I think Tannehill's the best overall person that would be out there. I would rather have him than anybody because of continuity, and I think he's a pretty good athlete. There's just things about it, like, might as well let it ride. To go back to the CJ point, CJ had some struggles. Sometimes it didn't look as good, but I think that was due to playing against lackluster competition. I think a lot of noon games, I think a lot of stuff like that factors, but CJ was very impressive against Georgia. CJ had a pretty decent day against Michigan, I guess. But to go back to Richardson, that is a huge risk. I think he has like all the physical tools in the world. I just think he's an idiot sometimes. And I don't know if that's idiot qualities you can get rid of.
You're talking about idiot qualities in the sense of just dumb decision making?
Dumb decisions. Like that I get people like, you can trust your arm. He's a gunslinger. Sometimes I don't want 3 picks a game. Like he's gonna throw 3 picks a game. He might have like a 4-pick game. Like,
well, that's the same thing with Will Levis. Like, what is the intrigue with these guys that are so hot? Because
it's the dimensions of their body, like the way they move, and they look good. And you know what? Those 2 guys are gonna be freaks at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna measure well. They're gonna bench press. They're gonna throw They're gonna throw well in an open gym, pretty much. Like, it's gonna rock your world, and people are gonna get sucked in. I think Richardson has qualities that if you can change, he might be the guy. Like he would have, like, honestly, if you got everything down pat, he's got the highest ceiling in the draft because he is, like you mentioned, huge arm, great body, moves like a freaking gazelle. It's impressive. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, Gavin Jones brings up a good point here as far as Josh Allen. I mean, everyone coming out from Mahomes, Allen, they all had things on their radar. While Mahomes was too much of a wild card. Allen wasn't accurate enough, and he didn't come from a big school. It's all these different things. So it's like we don't know what someone's going to be based on. I mean, I'm guilty of this. I think Bryce Young has somewhat of a red flag, maybe a yellow flag on him because he comes from Alabama and he's been surrounded by the best talent in the country for 4 years or whatever it was. And then when you get drafted that high, you're the best dude on the team probably now.
Yeah.
They're banking on you and not the guy that, is playing defensive line. But all that to say, I mean, you brought up Ryan Tannehill, and if there's some trade value for him, I don't know if that was something that you saw on Twitter, but I think Ryan Tannehill could get us a 2nd-round pick. And I think a team like the New York Jets, I think if the Seahawks wanted to move away from Geno Smith, I don't know how much Geno Smith could get paid right now because $36.6 million for a quarterback right now seems to be pretty average or maybe under average as far as actual, annual salary or whatnot for these players. But Ryan Tannehill has 3 years left on his deal, and I think he's got roughly over 40, maybe $45 million that they could probably spread around.
Yeah.
For 3 years.
Yeah.
That's cheap. And I feel like what benefits the Titans is that they are in a great spot at 11 to transition to our talk where about moving up, staying put, or moving down. I think the top 10 could have potential of just being madness and chaos from whoever jumps up where to get this quarterback, because these quarterbacks are going to go quick in my mind. Because the Panthers, if the Jets want to move up, there are several teams that could come out of nowhere. The Raiders right there. Again, the Seahawks. I mean, like we're talking about, half of our division could be getting 1 or 2 of these guys, which terrifies the life out of me. But with the asterisk next to the Colts, because I feel like they're going to always just, like, barring some generational talent at quarterback, they're going to be like what they've been the last few years in my mind. But anyways, like, if chaos happens, it feels like the Titans are in a position with the college football playoff right on the outside just to slip in when all the people get pulled out, and they're right there. Because I think someone quarterback-wise could fall to 11. I've heard people saying that Bryce Young could fall to 11. Because if the Colts like that, if they like Levis and they go up for Levis, and they like that guy, and he's the dude that falls down, and he's there at 11, or Paris Johnson Jr. is there, who are you taking?
Man, Paris is hard to pass up on. Paris is really hard to pass up on. If Bryce is there, you kind of have to take him. I feel like you have to take him. But also, there's something to like, I feel weary about this class because Bryce's size. I think Bryce's talent is wow. Like Bryce, when you watch Bryce throw a football, it's a pretty dang good arm. It's a big arm. It's not, he's not Anthony Richardson. He ain't throwing it a country mile, but Anthony Richardson only completed 53% of his passes. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bryce is special, but he's small. There were some moments for CJ, but he had a huge game. He had a huge game against what feels like a professional NFL defense.
As close as you're going to get.
As close as you're going to get, he cooked. He was the best player on the field at all times in that game. Unfortunately, they lost. That was the national championship. But next year's class is better.
So you're banking out for 2024 because I'm content as can be.
I just feel like Bryce would be really hard to pass up. If it's one of the other guys, I would probably if you could have if we are at the God wonderful given scenario of what if you have Paris left and then one of the quarterbacks outside of CJ because he ain't falling. I don't think Levis is falling. I don't think CJ or Bryce is falling. But if something like Bryce fell because of the size stuff, then yeah, I would rather do Paris. And then I would really do the Vols Homer thing and just go get Hooker. Like that would be a better bet for you to like save a draft pick or save an early draft pick.
Well, it's a good topic, but it's also an intriguing thing when you've already got Malik Willis on the roster, basically.
He got to go, bro. He ain't it.
I don't know, man. Here's my concern. Like the Charles London thing, the focus on moving Pat O'Hara out of the quarterback, coaching job, because it feels like Pat O'Hara has been that cool California guy, like whatever. Hey, great job, man. Just like, but not really challenging anyone to go to the next level. And here are two things I realized that are true this week. The personnel group around Malik Willis last year, or all that we've seen from him, whether it seems like there was a completely different Jekyll and Hyde Titans team from one start to the next, but he showed some signs in Kansas City, and then he would take 3 steps back. The personnel group was awful, but he was also bad. And those two things are what I realized could be true at the same time. Like this dude, I don't understand. Again, like we're talking about Will Levis having these projections of going top 3, top 5 or whatnot. And then to look back and think Malik Willis was being talked about as a first-round potential.
Yeah.
And we scooped him as a third, and we're like, what the hell do we do with this guy? And that's why I think it's an intrigue. If Hendon Hooker was there at 41 for the Titans, that would be very intriguing.
Malik to me is a guy that fan bases want to talk themselves into so bad because you want something new and he makes mundane passes that any NFL quarterback, backup, second, third string should make.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, well, he can do it. It's like, yeah, but he can't do it consistently. It's not even close. Like his bad is bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
And I want it to work because I'm like, God, dude, you watch this guy in college. And I was like, dude, he's flying up the field. He's electric. He's fun. But I can tell in interviews, like, I mean, and people can grow. Obviously, you and I are not even close to the same human beings we were at 23, 24.
Yeah.
But he ain't got it, man. Like I just personality wise, it just doesn't feel like it. I want a dog. I want dude, Hooker's like almost our age, but Hooker would be a much better bet to me. Or keep Dobbs. Like Don't do that. Like Malik's not it. Malik's not going to be Rand's guy. Maybe they like him. Maybe he's somebody that, gets a lot better over the offseason. And you like him as a backup, but I just don't see it. And maybe I eat my words one day, but I'll say this: he will never be a starting quarterback long term in the NFL for somebody. Like they might need him as a starting quarterback, but he'll never be a starting quarterback year in
Yeah,
year out.
yeah. I don't think that you're going to be eating your words, but just for the sake of we know what Malik is. I just don't know what it's the whole philosophy thing. Even with the question, and if Bryce Young's at 11 and Paris Johnson Jr., it depends on the philosophy that you're looking at it from. Like we're going to overhaul this thing and go with Bryce Young. We're going to trade Tannehill for whatever we can get, or cut him and take the dead money hits and all that kind of stuff. Or we're going to have a left tackle for the next 10 years in Paris Johnson Jr. So regardless of look at Laramie Tunsil. Almost had my tongue got stuck there. Laramie Tunsil's been sitting in Houston just waiting for someone to block for.
Yeah.
And he's been wasting away. I hope to God the Titans can find somebody. And maybe it's just the fact that I played offensive line. I'm a bigger dude, so I know hey, this guy's a huge monster, and But all that to say, they have to get away from this issue where you're pulling guys up from the practice squad, and it's like, hey, we need you to go up against J.J. Watt this week. What you say?
Have fun.
Yeah, slap him on the ass and go. Give me a dude, and I think Paris Johnson Jr. is that dog. He is that dude. He's a guy that puts his hands inside a dude's pads right here and puts his face in there, and he drives them into the ground.
Yeah.
Even when it's not necessary. And that's a dog right there. But my thing is, I don't know what to anticipate from the draft as far as the chaos, the order. The idea of moving down, though. Now, I've gone through mock simulations and things like that where there's been, you can trade up or you can trade back. I do think I'll be surprised if they move down just because of where they are, given the fact that we're all anticipating them being in the 20s for the next few years as far as draft pick position. So now's the time to go up and either get somebody, stay put, and get the best person that you can get at 11. But if they're trying to recoup some of those lost draft picks, because they whiffed on a lot of guys, now we're talking Isaiah Wilson, Braden, Caleb Farley, a lot of guys, right? But the idea of moving down for you, what does that sound like in your head? Nails on a chalkboard?
Yeah, it does.
Really?
It does. I like to keep our spot. Get Skornowski, get Paris if you can. There's something out there.
I think, yeah, Pete Skoronski could be a dude that, I know he's smaller. He's not your average, I called it, who was it for? The Jonathan Ogden 6'9", 6'8" monster. But
no.
On the left, but he's going to be a technician who's going to be able to be over there. I think he can move inside as well. So he could be a dude if you land him at 11. Maybe you try him at guard. Maybe you try him at tackle and just have him as that backup swing guy that if you got to shuffle somebody, who knows? Versatility is always a good thing to me.
Versatility is very big. We need that.
But Chase,
hey, you gonna bring up that Instagram post?
Yes, sir. I was just thinking.
We got to talk Super Bowl. We got to talk the Super Bowl week, baby. So what we're bringing up here is this from Pro Football Focus. And Trey and I are just kind of having the conversation of what position group is best for each team and who's kind of the matchup, who has the advantage at each position group. And I was very shocked. So it looks like here, this is from Pro Football Focus, and I know Trey's cut some ifs with PFF, but yes. It is intriguing. So the Chiefs, position group by position group, take the quarterback spot and the tight end spot, and that's it. The Eagles have running backs, wide receivers,
offensive line,
defensive line. We got a draw linebacking crew, which is pretty close.
And then secondary for the Eagles.
That's crazy, man. And I agree. I actually do agree. I was listening to one of our faves, Chris Long. And Chris was talking about the last week, San Francisco 2 weeks ago, San Francisco 49ers are really good up front, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But the depth that Philadelphia brings is unbelievable on the defensive line.
Oh yeah, and that's where
I just can't, like, if you're Patrick this week, dude, this is the worst team you could be hobbled against, right?
they come at you from several different ways. Hassan Haskins, I know some incentives for the Super Bowl, and Dominican Sue and Joseph Lin. I'm gonna mess up his name, Joseph Linthal or Linval or whatnot.
Yeah.
They got incentives that if they play so many percentage, I think 30 or something percentage of the snaps of this game, they have some incentives there. But Chris Jones he took over the AFC Championship game.
He sure did.
But they got a lot of dudes doing not what Jones is doing, but they're playing at a high level. And they did, I mean, obviously knocking out Brock Purdy, knocking Josh Johnson out. Like, I mean, impacting the quarterback in a way that you pray that your team can do it, especially if you're a Titans fan. But all that to say, I mean, it is a little bit of the asterisks of it being PFF. However, they'd be ludicrous right now to say, obviously, Jalen over Mahomes would be nuts.
Yeah.
Absolutely wrong. Quarterback or running backs, I feel like this is a toss-up just because nowadays, outside of the Titans, everyone has a stable of backs. I think they have the better stable. I know LSU quarterback for the Chiefs got 3 names now. He's coming back this week, or he's been activated. They drafted him a few years ago. Edward Eclair.
Oh, Clyde's Edward-Helaire. Yeah.
Yeah. Eclair. I'm thinking about donuts over here.
Oh, that'd be so good. I was thinking the same thing when I said his name too.
Yeah. But I mean, all that to say, I think running backs is a little bit of a toss-up, but no question in my mind. I can think of Juju Smith-Schuster for the Chiefs, and that's it.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling. That's what you got, buddy.
Right. And then Mecole Hardman's been out because he's injured and all that stuff. So, yeah, obviously Eagles take the cake there. Tight ends, yeah.
Clearly.
I mean, offensive lines.
Dude, Philly's been so good this year. I mean,
Jordan Mailata is a guy that I think people legitimately – that international program, especially that just giant, massive Samoan dude, like, you know that those dudes that play rugby can move really well, and if he's moving well at that size, get him out there and see what he can do. But yeah, Lane Johnson's still doing it. Dickerson's on the left-hand side, and then
Jason Kelsey
yeah,
he's just the best, dude.
Bravo. And the Christmas album was pretty good too.
Pretty damn good, wasn't it?
Pretty damn good.
He's so talented.
Linebackers, I think this is like I can't name a linebacker for really either team, unless it was from back when. Never mind. But yeah,
Hassan Reddick's gonna be
all over the place.
Yeah, he's gonna be awesome. Like they've got some guys. KJ, like they Eagles are. It's pretty close.
Well,
that was a tough one.
I'll say this, my man. My intrigue's going up. It's the week of. It is sad. It's the last week of like actual football. Has the line moved since we last saw it at -2.5? I think it's for Chiefs.
It's 1.5 now.
Good Lord.
This is gonna be close.
It's gonna be one of those, man.
This is gonna be a really good one. Like I'm actually really excited for this game. I have no dog in this race.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want it for Mahomes. I kind of want it for the Philadelphia. Like, I like Jalen Hurts. I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback without the talent around him, to be honest.
True.
Like, he's not a guy that's like Mahomes can go out there and like make it work with, like he's had great talent. Don't get me wrong, but last year when that offensive line was just getting wrecked by Tampa Bay, Mahomes was still doing like holy shit stuff.
Yeah.
But Jalen with pressure doesn't always look the best. So, but I'm not taking anything away from Jalen. I'm saying he has had a MVP-like year because he is gifted with the talent around him, and he has gotten better. But Jalen is not as good, but he is very, very talented. And if that defense gives him some opportunities, just like they did last or 2 weeks ago, dude, he can light it up. He can light you up. Like he might, if you give him some breathing room, you're done, though. Because AJ is going to have a big day, I feel like. Do you have any weird like possible MVPs, or like is there somebody like you think is going to have a big day?
I think, man, I would hate to see it. I can't say that. If AJ Brown won the MVP of this game, gosh, dude, that would just be the kick in the gut. But I think he potentially could. I don't know what the odds are as far as who's the favorite right now. I'm sure Mahomes is the favorite outright.
I think he and Hurts. Now I'm looking it up. So filibuster for me for a second.
Well, I mean, I think Hurts, like you're saying, is the guy that, I mean, both Mahomes and Hurts can be very good pocket presence wise, and they can move and they can adjust and all that kind of stuff. Same with our guys CJ Stroud and Bryce Young here, but like, I don't want it to just be the quarterback MVP stereotypical game. I would absolutely hate it if Travis Kelce won it.
Yeah. So Mahomes is plus 120.
Okay.
Hurts is plus 125. Huge drop offs after that. We all know it gets a quarterback award, but Kelce at plus 12. AJ at plus 1,800.
What? I thought he'd be favorited over Kelce.
No. Miles Sanders plus 2,200. Hassan Reddick at plus 3,000.
Hey, you never know, man.
Man, so if I'm going to go out here like on a reach, I would really put my money on Pacheco or Hassan Reddick. I like Pacheco at plus 4,000 to have just like this monster like screen passing catch game, and then like if you believe the Chiefs are going to win, I think Pacheco might be the guy like they just use. And yeah, like I mean the best bet. Like I think you're right, Craig. I think actually AJ at plus 1,800 is probably like the best overall bet. Like if you're going to get value plus like kind of a big hitter, like plus 1,800 is like a really good bet for AJ because, as Craig also mentioned, like he's been saving up. Like he's been quiet. Like there's those ebbs and flows of any sport where you're just like, okay, this guy's not been this super talent has not been very good the last couple of weeks. Like he's about to hit. The Super Bowl would be a big hit, and it'd piss us off because damn you, John Robinson, for getting rid of it.
Yeah. You remember Seattle Patriots, I think it was like 2015, but Curse, this big tall number 15, made it. He made an incredible catch. He didn't win MVP, but he had a game, and he could have been that guy to take it.
Yeah,
and I agree. AJ, I mean, plus 1,800. Throw $10 on that, and if it hits, you're there. That's beautiful. I love the pick for AJ. I would hate it for also the sake of, like you said, I mean, watching our guy who it's nuts now to think that he was a Titan. Seems like 10 years ago that all happened. But I mean, man, Rihanna at halftime, Chris Stapleton singing the national anthem. This is going to be a good one. Who's calling the game? Who's got the broadcast? You know?
Who is this? Was in Troy?
This is, I hope it's Greg Olson, to be straight.
I love Greg. Fox has got it. Okay. Got
so
it.
That's, well, Joe Buck and Aikman left Fox. So who's Fox? About to ask Alexa.
Craig, do you know who's calling it?
Oh, my goodness. I'm drawing a blank for Fox.
Me too.
But Greg Olson will be calling. Praise you.
Oh, Greg. Yeah. Okay.
That's what I thought, but I don't know.
I thought it was Greg and somebody else on Fox, but I can't remember who else. Anyways, yeah, perfect. Yeah, give me Greg.
Is Greg Olson? Who is your favorite duo right now? Just to close out our hour with an interesting topic. Who's your favorite announcing duo in the NFL as far as major networks? Because I've got a couple.
Troy and Buck. I love Troy and Buck, to be honest.
They're safe.
They are safe, but I love them. Like, I mean, they're my favorite. I just want you, like, they're good. they're good moments, but Buck is so good at letting just calling the game and letting the noise come to it. Like
They
if
did have
you in those moments of like when you should shut up, he shuts up.
that's the thing that when DeMar Hamlin's situation happened and he and Aikman were on the call, I forget, was it Susie Colbert on the sideline? Like they just stopped. It's like we just need to quit and we'll check back in a few minutes or whatever it was. But like as far as some of my favorites, yeah, Olsen is going to be my like dark horse favorite. Yeah. Kirk Herbstreit and Al Michael I thought were great for Prime.
Do you like? I kind of like geriatric Al. Like he's a little bit like, you know what?
It's like watching with your granddad.
Yeah.
It's like watching with your granddad. But also, I mean, it's an interesting thing here. If Fox is with Olsen right now, if Tom Brady comes in and he's not playing in 2024, is he doing color commentary or is he play calling? Or is he doing
he is going to be just at the desk.
Gotcha.
He said he would probably start to try like in 2024.
Yeah.
But Olsen's made the best transition this quickly, I feel like. And I think he ain't been out of the game that long, you know?
Yeah.
2 years, right?
I think in the college game, I think it's been he went somewhere after Carolina and I forget where it was. Seahawks, okay. And then he faded kind of into the darkness for their after
went up to the great Northwest and faded away.
Like some people do, man.
Who's your pick for the game?
For the Super Bowl, I'm going to be rooting for the Eagles just because I mean AJ and Karen, I'm that dude of like if I got to suffer through this, at least you get it and make it worth the heartache. Because if we know AJ is one of the best receivers in the league, then it just validates the hurt of all this. Like, damn, like what? But it also makes me look at Amy Adams Strunk like you let that man do this to all of us. I can't.
You like that? You like torture porn or something, babe?
No. I mean,
you like a little pain going on.
I've never explored it, but we'll see about it. I'll let you know. No. I've never. I mean, no, but I just like. I think AJ is a great dude. I think he got a bad rap and I think he mishandled that situation with the Titans and the trade. Sure did. But in all the Twitter stuff. But I think the dude is doing his best. And at the end of the day, here's what I have to realize. These guys are hoping to play for 8 to 10 years and make as much money as possible. So at the end of the day, if you can't do it on my team, go get as much money as you possibly can and have as much success as possible.
As much.
And I will, I mean, but that's just because I hate the Chiefs. You can only be, you're only rooting for the Chiefs as a Titans fan if you're betting on them.
Yeah. Yeah, I lean Eagles. I do because I feel like so many people like, and there's just been so much. It's hard to bet against Mahomes. I'm leaning Eagles.
Got a lot of pressure on them, dude.
They do. It just feels like everybody else is going with Eagles because the Eagles have just beat the shit out of people. And everybody's like, oh, it's the easy path. But it's like, yeah, but the Chiefs haven't had like the hardest road in the world either.
No.
Like, I mean, it's not as been as air quotes easy as the Eagles road has been.
Well, look at their divisions. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Like there's just a product. It's just a product who you play and who you beat in front of you.
We all thought that, what is it, AFC East or no, West with the Chiefs and the Chargers and the Raiders and the Broncos.
It was going to be a monster.
And what happened? It all fell through. And it's like the Titans. Like if we barely miss the playoffs in a really bad division, like let's get our ducks in a row. And that's why I think the Titans don't want to make too much of a wave right now. It's like we've been right here at the cusp. We've been doing it. We've been winning. We've made them the playoffs. We don't have this thing's not entirely broken, Vrabel said. Like not all things are need to be fixed. So yeah, sorry to take it back to the Titans, but I think the Eagles are my pick. I think Mahomes is getting to that point in his career where the pressure is going to start setting in. Of like, this is your team. You just signed a $10 million career contract, and you're you're the dude.
Yeah.
So we'll see, man. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked for it.
Me too. Well,
All in
buddy,
all.
you have a good one. I'm gonna go
Yes,
write a Vols article.
sounds good. Yeah, check the Substack at chat10sports.substack.com. You can find that by finding us on anywhere on social media at Chat10Sports. Find the link tree. You can find all of the links to all of our stuff from audio, video to articles and everything in between. But we'll be back here next week, Wednesday, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time if you want to join us and chat live with us. If not, listen, subscribe wherever you're watching, thumbs up, 5-star rating. Wherever you're listening as well, we appreciate you and we hope you have a great rest